I've been on the same trail over and over and over to that one spot, but there's a whole bunch of trails out there. Why do I keep running the same trail? Let me take a different turn. And that was a micro adventure. I felt it as I took the turn. I was like, ooh, there was this little hit of dopamine, and it took me to a part of the neighborhood that I wasn't familiar with. I know that seems trivial, but even if you stack those up, those micro adventures through your day or maybe throughout your week, start to get this sense of adventure.
We are biologically rewarded for adventure. You're like dopamine. There's several different things that wake up inside of us when we do take on adventure, whether it's big, whether it's small.
Yeah, so just start small, do what you can do, and then grow from there. And you're going to grow in so many different ways, not just physically, but you're going to grow. You got to take those adventures.
If you think adventure is dangerous, try routine. It's lethal.
Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness.
John and I are back solo today after speaking with Wild at Heart author John Eldredge. We literally just stopped recording with him like 20 minutes ago. He was amazing. And where John Eldredge goes on to the book and he describes in the episode we just had with him that he says that every man needs a sense of adventure to live. Well, today we're going to break down why having that adventure in your life is so important to your soul and your overall health. Get ready because we're going to dive in and have some fun learning about what adventure is, what gets in the way of it, all the health implications, the benefits, and how to make adventure a regular part of your life. We do have so much going on here at Men Talking Mindfulness. You want to know what's going on, and you just head to mentalkingmindfulness.com. And, coming up right around the corner is our live virtual meditation course that starts on April 27th. All right, John, good to see you.
By the time this airs, let's see. By the time this airs, will be April 24th, I think. No, that's not right. Something like
21st.
that.
No,
this airs the 21st. Okay, so just before that meditation course starts. But
we got
good to see you, Will. I know we're riding on that high from that amazing episode with John Eldredge that we just
100%.
recorded. If you haven't listened to it yet, hey, when you're done listening to this episode, go back and listen to that one, or press pause on this one, go back and listen to that one, and then come back to this one because it's going to make a lot more sense. That's a shameless plug.
And share both of them with your people.
That's right. So anyway, let's get into that one breath grounding practice, brother.
Yes,
just
sir.
to get us re-centered. We actually forgot to wrap up the last episode with the closing practice, so we're going to start this one off. Yeah, here Will's already started. He's one breath ahead.
The gas out.
All right, so go ahead and get comfortable, whatever that looks like for you, and just bring your attention to your breath, not forcing anything, and just let it out nice and easy. Emptying out, and now a nice, slow, deep breath in, holding at the top, and letting it go. Letting it go nice and easy, nice and relaxed, nothing forced, just letting it fall out of you. And all right, bring some movement back into your body, and let's get into this. We're going to talk about adventure, why adventure is so important. Like we said, John touched on that in the last show, and I want to start off with a couple of things that he said, two pieces. He said, adventure starts when stuff goes wrong. I love that quote. He's like, hey, if you're out on a boat and something happens, you got to start figuring out the problem. Will said, you got to be a problem solver. So for men, it's important for, adventure. But he said, adventure starts when stuff goes wrong. I don't necessarily always agree with that because we're going to talk about some places and times where it doesn't. But this is the piece that I really loved. He said, adventure nourishes the soul. It calls you out. And I was like, oh man, I've got to remember to put that into our next episode, which is this episode about adventure. So Will, let's dive in, man.
Well, let's start a quote about adventure and why it's so important. This is Paulo Coelho, who wrote The Alchemist and many other great books. And he says, if you think adventure is dangerous, try routine. It's lethal. So
love that.
Really. Yeah, a really great quote. Well, let's go with defining. Should we mention this, like what I have here about Wild at Heart?
Yeah,
John? We've kind of already. Okay, yeah, all right. So John Eldredge, Wild at Heart, he emphasized that adventure is a core desire of every man's heart and essential to his soul. He argues that men are hardwired for exploration, risk, and challenge. Eldredge warns that eliminating risk and adventure from life's leads to boredom, passivity, and a sense of suffocation. He believes that living adventurously, whether work, relationships, or faith, restores vitality and aligns men with their divine design. And I couldn't, agree with him more. And that's a lot of like some of the things that he talked about in that episode.
Yeah. Well, he also talked about Henry David Thoreau's quote, and we kind of butchered it, but I'm going to come back and try to redeem ourselves. Yeah. So I went back and I was like, I know we got close, but it wasn't perfect. So we came back, and he says, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation." And I think that right there is tied directly to the lack of adventure, right? That quiet desperation is because we were born to live lives of adventure. And that's more what we're going to unpack today. We unpacked it last week a little bit, but then we got into the other sides of what Wild at Heart is about, and then kind of left this piece. So now we felt that it was really important to dig a little bit further into this piece here. So let's go from that quote and that piece that you pulled from John's book, Wild at Heart, into the definition of defining adventure. And this is for those who haven't listened to our show before, this is how we used to do things, man. Like we would start every show with a definition just about when it was just me and Will. So we're kind of going back to our roots here with defining adventure. Go ahead, Will. You said something there.
This definition is interesting. I like, we do our notes on Google Drive, and I like, you can just highlight a word and click and say define, and it says this is a Google. And John, you found something else too. It says engaging in, this is the verb of it, engaging in hazardous and exciting activity, especially the exploration of unknown territory. So I mentioned the hazardous part of it. Could be I forget what I said, John, about like,
risk.
what could be the hazard.
Taking a risk. Yeah,
we're taking a risk.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because I said, when I was reading through the notes, I was like, "Hey, Will, I'm not sure that adventure needs to be hazardous, right?" Yeah. And then I went and looked it up on Perplexity, and it says the definition of adventure encompasses a range of exciting, often risky, and unusual experiences or undertakings, but it doesn't necessarily have to be risky or hazardous, but they are often that way.
Yeah, well, I think hazardous, that's what I want to say. It's like, because it be hazardous to your habits of you getting out of your comfort zone, hazardous to the way that you typically do things, and also risking, because like that's what wakes up the heart, is taking a risk, having the courage, and putting your best foot forward, regardless of whether it's something like, asking a girl out, or like going on
that's
some
exactly
sort of amazing,
where my mind went.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Or to some great, adventure. And this can, an adventure, you can look at this as like, grand expeditions like climbing, whatever it is, Kilimanjaro, or, but also even micro adventures such as like exploring, a new park, or like taking an unplanned day trip or something like that.
Yeah, well, like you said, there's the unplanned day trip, but there's also the even much smaller micro adventures, right? And so like that can be literally going and trying a new trail. Like yesterday, I ran with my dog, and you and David, we went on some trails around my house when you visited back in January, and I've been on the same trail over and over and over to that one spot, but there's a whole bunch of trails out there that go for miles. And I was like, yesterday, literally, I was like, why do I keep running the same trail? Let me take a different turn. And that was a micro adventure. I felt it as I took the turn. I was like, ooh, like there was this little hit of dopamine, and it took me to a part of the neighborhood that I wasn't familiar with. And then I ran down and I saw how it connected with my neighborhood. But like, I know that seems trivial, but even if you stack those up, those micro adventures through your day or maybe throughout your week, start to get this sense of adventure. You start to feel better. And then we're going to talk about why adventure is not just good for our souls, but we're also going to talk about why it's good for our mental, physical, and emotional health. And that little trail run, I felt great afterwards. Yes, I felt great because I did a run, but it also felt great to be like, oh, this was new and kind of novel, if you will, at least for the first time. So yeah, those micro adventures are important too.
As we're researching for this topic, like we're rewarded for adventure. Like we are biologically rewarded for adventure. You brought up like dopamine. Like there's several different things that wake up inside of us when we do take on adventure, whether it's big, whether it's small. And one of them is like dopamine is released, so we get this creation of excitement and pleasure and motivation, and it also reinforces us to keep exploring more, which is also going to help us to build more resilience, because we're always in kind of a state of change or a state of flux, and always, instead of doing the same things all the time.
It also has, the ability to change the structure of our brain, right? Or rather, it gives our brain the ability to do that. So that neuroplasticity, right? The ability for you to learn new things, improve adaptability, creativity, that allows you to respond in different ways to challenges, to obstacles, and that could be like literally from, your car breaking down on the side of the road to something like, a challenge in your marriage. There's going to be obstacles through our life. Like we spoke about last episode, there's going to be quote unquote wars or battles that we're fighting. They may not be the literal ones, but there's always going to be some type of challenge. And if we have that adaptability, then we're going to be able to overcome those challenges that much faster.
Yeah. And developing confidence along the way.
Oh, for sure. And then, we've had Stephen Kotler on before, and we had George Mumford. Yeah, spaced. So we had George Mumford, a legend, NBA stars, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's mindfulness teacher. But we had Stephen Kotler and George Mumford on recently to speak. Stephen Kotler wasn't recent, but George Mumford was, to speak about flow state and heightened focus, which apparently I need. but that adventure, that is one of the flow triggers. Novelty is. So, the pushing yourself a little bit outside your comfort zone where you can kind of stretch but not snap. But then over and above that, having some type of novelty, doing something new. You're going to be hyper-focused when you're doing that, right? Like when you learn a new language, right? I'm speaking English right now. It's not that hard for me because that's my primary language. Well, it's my only language. But if I were to try to say the same thing in Spanish, I would have to be a lot more focused. So that heightened focus and the ability to tap into that flow state is another piece of why adventure is so important. What did I miss there?
Well, no, you talked about it when you went on that little excursion. Instead of going the same path, you went on a new one. You just you had a greater sense. Your mood lifted. You had a greater sense of well-being.
Oh, for sure.
When you do these things, like our stress hormones go down. It's going to help improve our sleep quality when we're not in such an anxious state, or don't have all this anxiety and stress energy running in the background. So, I mean, there's just so many rewards, like you can do it on a daily basis. We're going to get into it, like what it can look like, just these micro adventures, but also like having like a bigger adventure that you're reaching towards. And one thing that, John and I are always an adventure on this show. Like, literally it's like every week we're like, we're going on a hike or preparing for a hike, and we just climbed a mountain that is John Eldredge, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, reading his book, preparing, talking about it, and it's just like, got me up out of bed this morning at 4:00 in the morning, for this episode as well. I mean, I was like, I don't know why I've had trouble sleeping around. I got up like 3. I was like, oh my, really
because you're not having enough adventure, man.
Yeah, right. That's what, yeah. You're fucking up my point, John. My point was like, I do feel a great sense of adventure, and I got up and I started working, and here we are on the other side of that. And now we're talking about something else. So, and I think you could tell, like John and I, like we are, on the show, we're in pretty good fucking mood all the time because we're on purpose, because we're being courageous, which is also part of accessing that sense of adventure, is like putting yourself out there, trying something new, and forgetting what it looks like or what it should be like. Just go with what is.
Yeah.
Well, what's a question? What's one? Okay, how about this? So getting personal here. What's one adventure, big or small, that has really changed your perspective on life, John, if you will? Or maybe a couple.
Yeah, I'm not sure yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not sure if I can narrow it down to one. I mean, there's lots, going to join in the Navy. That was an adventure. I mean, I think that actually used to be one of the Navy's slogans, something like that. I forget.
Change your life.
But then,
it's not just live the adventure.
It's not just a job. It's an adventure or something like that. I forget.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then from joining the Navy into the SEAL teams, and there's tons of adventure in the SEAL teams. I mean, that was a ton of fun. I mean, there was some downsides, some rough times, but there was definitely adventure involved in that. From going out and training, jumping out of airplanes, shooting guns, to going out essentially camping. I mean, we would go out and hide in the woods for days at a time, surveilling enemy targets on training in real world. So that was adventure. I'll say another big adventure is being a dad, 100%. When and that's that's definitely hazardous potentially.
Yeah, it's an adventure every day.
It is.
Yeah,
It is, man. Let's see. Becca and I, we went to Nepal on a medical mission, a medical and Christian mission. A heck of an adventure there.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work in Jordan, in the Middle East, and when I was in Jordan, we went down to the Dead Sea, and then from the Dead Sea, we went to Petra. And I don't know if you've been. Yeah, it's incredible. So walking through the Slot Canyon there, and then coming out at the Treasury, which if you've never been to Petra or unfamiliar, it's one of the things that became somewhat famous in one of the Indiana Jones movies. Basically, it's an old historical society that basically they carved their buildings into the side of mountains, and it's incredible. So that was an adventure just being there. And honestly, my work every day, I don't have a standard 9 to 5, and that is very intentional, because I don't like the monotony of this doing the same thing every single day, day in and day out. So I've intentionally engineered some novelty into my day. And then it's also fun to have an adventure that you're looking forward to. So I've got an adventure starting this week. I'm going with my oldest daughter and my older parents, my elderly parents, to Australia. We're going to be gone for like 12 days, and it's going to be amazing. But also, like, I've mentioned a lot of things there, but I also want to say that not all adventures have to be taken physically. Like, a lot of things that we've talked about here are physical adventures, but an adventure could be trying to learn a new language or a musical instrument, exploring faith, taking a risk with a new relationship. Like, I was stationed in Afghanistan with Becca. We were working together, and in all honesty, I took a risk in telling her that I had feelings for her, because we were in the same chain of command and there could have been some problems there. But I took a risk, and luckily it didn't backfire on me. But that was an adventure.
How would these change your perspective?
How would they change my perspective? Oh my gosh!
On life. Yeah, I mean, that's the crux here. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Petra, I think it just made me feel very small, because these people had done incredible things by carving these buildings and living structures into the mountains. But then at the same time, it made me really appreciate just the innovative ways that people can do things. The SEAL teams have just made me crave adventure, because I had that craving all along, and then just having that craving met for so long in the SEAL teams, now not being there, now I still crave it even more so. Being a dad, there's a time when I'm like, oh, I kind of wish there was less adventure in that particular pursuit, but it's always new, and I wake up every day excited to be a dad. So it's changed my perspective in that regard. But yeah, I think adventure as a whole is going to change your perspective. It's going to change how you see your own life. Coming back to what John Eldredge said, it nourishes us. It is like having water, right? It's like having food. Like, without it, our soul dies. So I think that's how it's changed my perspective. What about you, man?
Well, I mean, I've done, I'll talk about the perspective first, then I'll give you a little bit of a list, but it's just like, I really get to appreciate things more. Like, especially when you go into developing countries, like I've been out in the Serengeti on my own. Like, I took a trip to East Africa on my own, 100% for 3 weeks. I was in the Serengeti and like visiting all these different communities around like Kilimanjaro and that area around the Serengeti. And I've done a bunch of other traveling, throughout the world. Just hiked the volcano last year in Guatemala, which was incredible. But all of it is just like, gives me a wonderful, beautiful sense of wonder. It gives me, a wonderful connection, to how incredible this fucking planet is, and and how different how people live, and how they, how I'm so grateful for, living in this incredible, United States of America, where all of our basic needs are met. Like, just get out of bed and they're there. Whereas like you go into other countries, it's like, they don't have potable water. They don't have, even running water. Yeah. Plumbing. Yeah. Right. I mean, potable in the sense like that you can actually drink the fucking water.
No, I know what potable is.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, right. So not even running water, even like, I remember, I was in Africa for 7 weeks at one point, and then I came back to New York City. So I was in Nigeria, which is incredibly poor, doing some work. And then I did 3 weeks in the east of Africa, between Kenya and Tanzania. And I came back to New York after 7 weeks of being out of like the city, the city. And it just like, it really just helped me just to appreciate things more. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, all my problems seem to have a lot smaller. I was able to just really wake up to life and just, again, be more grateful for what we have here instead of always complaining what I don't. And I think that's one of the biggest things. And also keeping the adventure alive. Like I went out and I worked with Wim Hof 2017, and it was just great to meet all these other people, and just so many wonderful things that you can continually, that adventure is going to bring to you, whether it's big or small. But I would definitely say go out and definitely at least once or twice a year, get on a big adventure. Cause it just really, it can really change you, because you're making a massive, it's the adventure. If it's something big, is really going to require more of you. Which I think is very important for everybody, especially a man, to just to wake up to what's already in your heart and just answer that call. And just put a spot in the map and just go.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's going to take more of you, more from you, but at the same time, it's going to give that much more back to you. I think.
Yeah.
Is an important piece. There's a massive emotional, mental, spiritual return on investment there.
Yeah. Exactly.
What about how has that impacted your relationships, whether that's, romantic relationships, work, physical? How's that affected your relationships?
That's a good question. Like, I think I'm just more patient. I'm just more patient with people, or because, I'm thinking in particular of like, the work I've done and the things I've seen in these developing countries like East Africa. I've been down to, Nicaragua as well. And, I think it's really changed the relationship to myself ultimately is the big one. It really helped me to, to understand that I have the courage on the inside to go out and do that I can do these kind of things. And I took some of these trips completely on my own. So like that really helped me just to get better with myself, get more organized. It helped me to also, connect with other people, that I'm out, if I'm traveling alone. And that's like, and that just helps me in all relationships, because I've created a greater skill in with like how to connect with people, that maybe we don't even necessarily speak the same language, but we're still human beings. And then with like, with my like my closest loved ones and stuff like that. I think it just, maybe they're partially, I'm a pain in their ass because I'm like, oh, you gotta go do this, or like, I think you'd really enjoy. And I think I'm helping them to come forward as well, because they see all these pictures or whatever I'm doing, and they're like, holy shit, how is that? And I think it wakes up something inside of them to be like, oh wait, well, I mean, fuck, if that dimwit Will Schneider can do it, then I can do it too. You know what I mean? So it's just like anybody.
I doubt they're saying that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. But
I think it makes you come alive, right? So like it just seems like you're more awake when you have adventures. So as far as for me, relationships have been improved. There's times when Beck and I haven't gone on adventures, and I can feel our relationship kind of stagnates. The same with my kids. We get into this routine. Hey, wake up, eat breakfast, get on the bus, go to school, pick the kids up, and it's like, okay, this is life, and it's just rolling. And then you forget, oh yeah, we need to have some, spice of life, right? Variety is the spice of life. Well, we intentionally inject that spice, and there's trips that we do together, and I think that helps us to enjoy the adventure, and we can partake in it together. And my son is going to see something different than my daughter, than my wife, than I, and we share those experiences. Like, oh, did you see this? Oh no, wow!
Yeah, it's
And
like a bonding experience.
It's a total bonding experience.
Yeah.
But then there's value in having those adventures on your own, and that's one thing that I've been very guilty of not doing. So what you were just talking about, going to Africa and all these places on your own. I was like, man, I don't remember the last time I went on a trip on my own. I did go to Hawaii in 2014 on my own, rented a Westphalia van, ditched my iPhone, got like an actual map. Like I went to the fast or the Quickie Mart, and got a freaking paper map, and it had no agenda. I was just like, hey, I'm going to spend 10 days out here and just do whatever I want. And it was amazing. But then coming back to the micro adventures, just 2 weeks ago, I went to the slopes skiing on my own, which has been forever. Actually, I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever gone skiing on my own. And my wife was like, yeah, just get on out of here. And I felt there was a little bit of guilt. I'm like, oh man, I'm leaving this, I'm leaving work, I'm doing, what am I doing? But I spent the day just skiing all on my own, and then came home, and it was like I was a new man. Like all the energy, like you would think all the energy would be gone from skiing all day, but it was exactly opposite. It was like I had plugged in, like I was an iPhone, and I just plugged myself in and completely recharged, which made me more present. Coming back to the relationships piece, made me more present for Becca, for the kids, and they could tell. And then this past weekend, I went with a good buddy of mine. So I think there's value in doing adventures with friends. I mean, it wasn't a massive adventure, but we went out fly fishing together for the whole day, and it was awesome. Like, I think there's value in getting out there into nature, or doing something for yourself and with others. There's value in both sides of that equation.
I mean, it's so true. Again, it's part of who we are. It's part of why I feel we're on this planet, to explore, to go further, to try, to get out of your comfort zone, to do something new. Like, one thing that it gets in the way of adventure is, I remember growing up, I'd hear people say like, oh, same shit, different day, and they'd always be kind of miserable, you know what I mean? And it's monotony. This is the biggest thing that we have identified, to help you understand how important adventure is for this episode, is monotony, and the monotony can have, severely affect mental and physical health, acting as a psychological stressor that diminishes creativity, motivation, and emotional balance. Its repetitive nature leads to boredom, frustration, and disengagement, with significant consequences. And, I'm sure you can, if you're out there, you can relate to this, like diminished creativity, motivation, emotional balance, like this repetitive nature of things, what monotony, it has like the psychological effects. We're just going to go a little bit further into, the monotony. It's like boredom and dissatisfaction, like these repetitive tasks, reduce intrinsic motivation. So you don't really feel like that fire on the inside to really like wake up and try something new, or do something differently, or take on a creative project, or even create a new project, because you're just at this diminished capacity, but also I know, like when I worked corporate for 6 years at Glaxo, like I just had a tremendous amount of frustration because I wasn't connected to anything fucking meaningful. I know like purpose and work, but it's like I wasn't, what we do, John, here, and what I do out here in New York, like it's constantly calling me forward, because I'm like, I'm always trying to find, what's next, and I need to go search for that, and that is an adventure. And also I thought it was really important about monotony. It keeps us in our default mode network, which is like the annoying roommate in your head. And, it's just the one that doesn't shut up, the one that's always trying to cut you, the critic, the one that's always trying to put you down, or get in your way of like you trying something new. And we stay there if we are living a monotonous life. And so we actually have a couple things working against us. Not only the habits of us getting up and like doing the same shit different day, but our brain starts to be like, all right, well, this is what life is right now. I don't need. So we go to default, right? Which we know is a negativity bias, which is part of that default mode network. Yeah.
Isn't the default mode network occasionally good to get into? Like, don't you tap into the DMN at times in meditation? And that, I mean, I think you have to occasionally tap into that. Like, it's not good to completely avoid it, but we don't want to tap into it because of boredom. We don't want to tap into it because of monotony. So I think maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I think that's right with the DMN. But if you're listening and you can prove that I'm wrong, please let me know.
That's perplexity now. But
yeah. So
I mean,
what about?
I think there's definitely, it would be there, John. The default mode network wouldn't be there if it didn't have some sort of importance to our biology. Like, that's what I'm understanding about the human body. Like, it's like there's nothing. Like we're changing, we're moving, we're growing all the time. But a lot of vast majority of our biology is here to help us to survive and to move forward. And that's probably one of the survival mechanisms, the default mode network, to kind of bring us back into, what we know, which is important, but also to grow, we got to find adventure. We got to go forward.
Well, let's come back to the psychological effects, right? So monotony, and I'm sure you felt this, Will. I felt it. I'm sure many of you watching or listening have felt this, right? When you get bored, you get anxious, depressed, or burned out. It's not like, when I say that burnout, it's not burnout from working too hard. It's burned out from being fucking bored, and that can lead to feelings of inadequacy, poor emotional well-being. I mean, it could come to suicidal thoughts. You're like, hey, is this as good as it gets? Right. And I've certainly been there, for other reasons, but there've been times when I thought, is this as good as it gets? And what broke me out of that kind of rut was getting out and doing something. And when I said, yeah, like do something. And that could be, again, it could be going on a trip to Hawaii, or it could be, again, learning a new language, just pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, doing something that is risky, or, as we said at the beginning, novel or hazardous. And I love the way Will put it, hazardous to your habits. Hazardous to your bad habits, right? We don't want to be hazardous to our good habits.
to your monotonous habits, right?
Yeah. So, what else? How else does it affect us? Emotionally or psychologically?
Well, creatively, and how can you have bringing forth more and more creativity in your life if you're not seeing and doing different things, if you're not getting out there and taking action and going on an adventure? Like, it's just like, where do you think so many of the books that you read and great literature or great minds, like, they have really experienced things, they've done things, and I think those great minds, they realize that the adventure is part of the soul. We can try to escape it and just plug back into your fucking phone and doom scroll a little bit more, or maybe do another post and stuff like that, and waiting for the validation of whether that post was good or not. But like, you're just letting everyone else and kind of, or other people, other circumstances, other things determine who you are and what you're doing, instead of getting out there, taking some action, embracing what we are, which especially for men and everybody, but men for sure, like embrace that sense of adventure that's within us, and just watch what happens. Just watch. I mean, it's like, I was amazed, John, when I went to Achatenango last year in Guatemala, which is a dormant volcano, and we hiked up 12,000 feet, and next to it was a fucking active volcano. And I was like, just watch this active volcano, hear it, feel it. You could smell the sulfur. It was just, I mean, I was amazed. Like, one thing as far as creativity that I've seen when all these different adventures I take, or just observing the natural beauty in the world, is like, the ultimate artist, and what we're trying to copy is the masterpiece, like maybe the hand of Mother Nature. like what they've done, like what everything that is around us is absolutely fucking beautiful, and it's so fucking perfect, or just not perfect, just so beautiful that like I don't know if I would be able to. That's part of the perspective thing too, is seeing beauty more often and everywhere, because like that is woken up something inside of me, because I put myself in places that I can see this volcano. I mean, it'll blow your fucking mind if you go see a volcano like spouting lava, like the most. Just think of the best fireworks display, and then like and just take that. Not even you can't even 10x it. It doesn't even compare. But just to see that and feel it, it's like wow, and I'm left inspired. I'm left with like a greater sense, something deeper inside of myself. And therefore, like, what's that going to alive? And what is that aliveness going to do? I'm talking, you can feel the aliveness as I'm talking about it, because it's just so,
Yeah, you're getting excited.
there. And yeah, I want to talk. I mean, but I want to connect with people. I want to, I want to tell people about it, so just so there's a positive psychological effects for sure.
Oh, for sure. Well,
yeah.
That's psychological. Those positive psychological effects can also lead to positive physical effects, right? You become alive. You're energized, right? Like there's a desire to do other things, to do more, and because you're energized, now you are in fact doing more. You're doing more adventures. Maybe you're getting out and exercising more. So you are getting into better physical and mental shape. But the flip side of that coin is also true, right? If you don't wake up, if you don't become alive from this adventure, now that leads to sitting behind a desk all day. It leads to doom scrolling on your couch. It leads to binge watching Netflix, which I admit that I've done, and I continue to do it on occasion. But the larger majority of my life is adventure and activity versus inactivity.
I was going to say it can lead to a fat ass.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that inactivity can lead to obesity. It can lead to diabetes. It can lead to heart disease, respiratory problems. There's a lot that it can lead to as far as the physical consequences, as well as the emotional and mental consequences that we talked about before.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we mentioned fatigue, burnout. I think is
for sure
as well.
Yeah, and that's both. Burnout is both emotional. Well, it's all three: emotional, mental, and physical. There have been times when I've been burned out, and literally all I want to do is like lay on the couch or crash on my bed, and counterintuitively, that's the worst thing you can do. I mean, now I also want to be sensitive to like clinical depression, and there's times when we are clinically going to be burned out or fatigued. But if you are burned out or fatigued because of boredom, because of monotony, because of these repetitive routines, then what's the best thing for us? It's not a nap. It's not laying on the couch. It's getting up and doing something. So yeah, those are definitely physical consequences.
Yeah, well, I mean, and when you do seek adventure, we talked about the physical rewards. You know what I mean? It's like, again, you work with your biology. I mean, you could work with your biology and it's lighting up your biology to light up your life and go live a good life, or you can, our biology can go the other way as well. And if you're gonna, and it's just really sad that the kind of our body works against us in both ways. I mean, I guess you can't have one with that. It's always the yin and the yang. It's the yin and the yang. So, I think receiving this information, it's like, what can you start doing in order to bring just even small adventures? But one thing again, also, or not again, but what gets in the way, John, are excuses that typically men make about like not having the ability to go on adventure is like lack of time. I'm too busy with work, with family, or like I got too many responsibilities. It's like, what about a little self-care? How about think of that? Think of adventure as a little bit of self-care, and start scheduling that just as much as anything else that you put on your fucking calendar, because of like, again, that reward. Like you will be rewarded. And what's amazing about when you do take like a self-care moment, go out and do something that's a lot of fun, go out and like experience that wonderful, the fire that comes alive inside of us when we seek adventure. You're gonna create more clarity when you're with your work, so things are gonna get done more easily. The relationships are gonna change. But yeah, John.
Yeah, well, as a husband and as a father, I think it's very easy to get into that. I'm going to prioritize my children. I'm going to prioritize my relationship. As a man, quite often we get into the provider, protector, conqueror mentality. Well, like, hey, if I'm going on an adventure, then I'm not providing, and not only am I not providing, but I'm actually taking away funds from our family. Right? I'm spending money that I've raised or worked for to put towards the providing for my family, and I'm taking away from that. And then there's well, I've got to be here to protect as well, right? Maybe not in the literal sense, but in the figurative and potentially literal as well. And I admit that it's hard to prioritize that. You talked about it's a matter of prioritization. I think it's very easy as a man to be like, no, family is priority number one. Making money is priority number one. Being with my family, priority number one. All those things, ironically, are priority number one. But the truth is, at some point, you have to make yourself a priority, and it may not be every single day. And if it is, maybe it is every single day, but it's just in those micro adventures, right? It's just doing something small for yourself so that you can, in fact, be a better provider and protector and better, you're going to be more present with your wife. You're going to be more present with your kids, coming back to what we talked about in last episode with John. Having that adventure is so critically important, not just for yourself, but also your relationships, which we talked about earlier in this episode. So, and then the financial constraints, not only the how the adventure is going to take away from that providing and protecting. It's hey, these adventures are expensive. Well, not all adventures are expensive, right? We talked about the mini adventure that I had yesterday, going with my dog to run a different trail. That didn't cost a dime, right? So there are ways to do these. What else? What else are the excuses that men are throwing out there?
I mean, well, fear the unknown. It's like, oh, I don't know. Like, I've never done that before. I've never kind of done that thing. Like, so say a friend asks you, to come on, like, hey, let's go do this thing. Like, I'm looking at actually organizing a trip right now down to Peru, to Machu Picchu, with a couple friends. And it's like, sometimes you got to be that guy to bring the other guys along. But I'm not so fearful because I've done this shit before. You just gotta you just got to be smart. You just got to be smart, to do this. But it's also one step at a time. Like, it doesn't have to, if you're not used to taking adventures, again, start something small, one small step, and it's like one small step into more adventure, which leads to more courage, which leads to more knowledge, which leads to more adventure, which leads to more courage, and just keep going. It's like, you just keep going. And fear is just part of that. It could be part of that default mode network. And also the fear probably comes up, and that, the unknown, or the fear of the unknown, is coming up because, like, you're going to get uncomfortable. The hazard to your habits, once again, is adventure. And this could be something that's like, act in the face of that negativity, of those things that are trying to keep you safe.
Well, I'd say one more quote unquote villain, if you will, that's keeping us from doing it is a lot of the adventures that we've talked about. I mean, going to Machu Picchu, you probably got to be in pretty good shape to do that, right? Yeah. Oh, my chair just popped.
Wow.
I was leaning back too far.
So what the fuck is that? That was an adventure right there in the show.
There was that. Right. That was. So, I'm not in good enough shape to hike Mount Kilimanjaro. All these things. I mean, hell, I'm not in good enough shape to go on a 5-mile walk. And
right.
And that physical fitness, that's a concern, and it's valid for some. But there's other adventures that are much smaller. You don't have to bite off the entire marathon, right? Day one.
Exactly.
You can start smaller, right? What is it? The adventure of 1,000 miles begins with that first step, something to that effect.
Exactly.
So just start small, do what you can do, and then grow from there. I mean, and you're going to grow in so many different ways, not just physically, but you're going to grow. You got to take those adventures.
Great point. I mean, like, yeah, it's everything is, it's always, start. I mean, you can go after the big thing, but by starting small, this is how, if we haven't really gotten off the couch in a while, I really suggest going small so you don't scare yourself back. If you go too big, and the result isn't what you want it to be, or something catastrophic happens, your mind's going to be like, see, I told you to stay here. Right. But if you start small and build from small steps to gain more confidence and go further with bigger steps and bigger places and bigger adventures, like it's a process, just like think of a child walking, it's like it takes a long time to take those steps. It takes a long time, to really be running effectively. And just take one little step at a time, baby steps, baby steps. All right, let's go. Anything else there, John?
No, I think a logical next step would be, so we've talked about, the effects of adventure. We've talked about what gets in the way of adventure. Now let's talk about, okay, how do you actually embrace adventure, right? How do you go out and actually do this thing? And I think that starts, several things is doing some self-reflection, right? Okay, where am I? What do I want to do? What am I lacking in my life? And a lot of that reflection could come from journaling, right? Journal about it, maybe talk to a good friend. Like maybe you have an adventurous friend, and be like, hey, what small adventure are you doing in the next couple of weeks that I could join you for, right? It's find out what the problem is. And as men, we're quite often, we want to be problem solvers. We want to find a solution. Take the time to look at that problem. Take and take stock of who you are and where you are in your life currently, and who you want to be and where you want to go in the future. And I think that's going to really help to get that first proverbial step taken.
Even picking up the phone could be the adventure for a lot of guys. Just calling a buddy you haven't talked to in a while and be like, hey,
for sure.
Like just even making that request is like where the adventure really begins. And you can even feel, if this is not something that you're used to doing, just picking up the phone, calling a friend and saying what's up and hey, let's do something together. You just even watch how you're feeling as you move towards this adventure to pick up the phone, and dial it and call them and say, what's up? I mean, that's where the adventure really begins. But you can see just in those moments, in those micro adventures, how it really begins to wake up the body in a certain way. And like, I think it's important to live, on, in almost the middle between comfort and adventure. Like, I think I feel you got to go back and forth. I mean, it can't always be adventure all the time because you're just going to burn yourself out, in the other way. But
then you'll burn out. Exactly.
Yeah. But you can't be all Mr. Monotonous all the time. And, just doing the same shit different day and wondering why your life sucks. Like you have to have I think there's a stability as well as like the adventure that you keep moving through. I mean, that's why, unless you're a full fucking nomad out there and just like,
I mean, maybe that's what you get paid for because you're a Red Bull athlete or something, but
yeah, I mean, but there's still a comfort in that too, because they're taking care of, they're taking care of you. And obviously they're like, hey, I got the money, or they're taking care of me financially. I have a place to stay. I just need to go out and be more adventurous, which is like, talk about a great way to fucking live. Talk about Kristen Olmer's life, right? I mean, that's what she did forever.
It's I'm part of this group of men. It's just a big text thread, and there's a guy, Matthias Giroux. And he's known better by Super Frenchy. That's actually not. Yeah, that's actually how. Yeah, he's Super Frenchy. I may actually be pronouncing his actual name wrong. I know him as Super Frenchy, and he's in this text thread. And if you've never heard of him, looking out after this show, you'll see what he does. And he's in the same text thread as me, and like he will ski to the edge of a cliff, fly off the cliff, parachute down, and you should see these mountains he's skiing down, man. They're epic. But there's a part of me that's like, I'm not doing enough adventure because I'm in the same text thread as this guy. And let's see. Anyway, the other thing that I was going to say is, schedule it. Right? Like, what's stopping you? Let's get whatever adventure that is, find it, take some time to find it, and then get it on the calendar, whether it's something today, whether it's something, next week. But hey, and this is going to be a shameless plug here too. Will and I are doing a Spartan race down in Texas in October. I think it's October 19th, and it's on our website. It's only the 5K, right? So don't let the distance really scare you. It's going to be difficult, but that's part of the adventure, is, pushing yourself outside the comfort zone. But we're doing the Spartan October 19th. It's on our website, mentalkingmindfulness.com. Check that out. And then I know Will's got some adventures that he does in New York regularly as well. So Will, what do you got?
I have a hike day out here. I woke up
that's
hike
super
day
cool,
again. Man. It's been. I did a bunch before the pandemic. Probably, I don't know, maybe 8 or something like that. And I'm like, I just want to get out. I want to give people the opportunity, to have these adventures. So if you're in New York, head to willnotfear.com or find my Instagram. But this Spartan race, John, I'm really excited about. And we're sponsoring. We did this because, it came from John's physique competition in Denver. And I was like, well, why don't we just, we can document this, and we can actually, keep broadcasting, this your fitness journey, and end in like a group activity, so we get to get together and hang out. So come venture with us on this Spartan race in outside of Dallas. It's Granbury, Texas. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Us. And again, so put that on your calendar, sign up, go to the website. But getting that on your calendar is gonna, I know when I get something on my calendar, John, I can't wait until I fucking get Machu Picchu on my calendar, because I'm just like, yeah, dude. When's August coming? When's this coming? I talked to my nephew, who's like, he'll be 25 in July. We had a great time going on an adventure, doing a road trip from Nashville back to Pennsylvania.
This the Marine?
He's out in the Marines, but he's
once a Marine, always a Marine.
I know, totally. He's just such a great dude. I'm so glad he's a Marine too. He's like, hey, what are we going to do this summer? So we're going to drive. We're going to go to Arcadia National Park,
That's the next thing, man, is like, we've talked about how these adventures, the actual act of doing them wakes you up, right? And makes you come alive. But also just putting them on your calendar and having something to look forward to, right? That's like, if your life is monotonous and there's no way to really escape it in the here and now, putting something on your calendar, a couple weeks from now, a couple months from now, and you're like, oh yeah, I can make it through this grind for the next 3 weeks, for the next 3 months, because I'm going to Machu Picchu, I'm going to Australia, or I'm going to propose to my potential fiance, that's an adventure too, right? So having an adventure on your calendar in the future doesn't necessarily have to be tomorrow. That can also really make you come alive. So I just wanted to make sure I touched on that piece too.
No, and you could even schedule little micro adventures, or something like, hey, I'm going to go take a walk on Thursday into a new place, or go on a little bit of a, mini hike, or just do something different. Even, in what we researched here, John, it's just like, what if you just drive a little bit a different route to work, or walk a different trail? There's so many little things you can do to keep that adventure alive. And it's like, and again, it has its own biology, and you'll be able to feel that biology running through those hormones. How about, so one thing I'll say also about adventure, you can go within, like John mentioned, journaling, going within, adventuring deeper into your soul, deeper into your psychology, deeper into your biology by, meditation. You can even go even deeper, doing a psychedelic experience. They call it a trip because you don't come back the same, and do your homework. I'm not recommending it. It might not be for everybody. It has really transformed my life. It's something that I actually make sure I do at least once a year. I just actually few weeks ago, I saw Jai and another friend. I did a heavy dose of LSD, and I was fucking it was amazing. But I was I explored my mind.
But you did it for the right reasons, right?
I'm not just. So. It was recreational, but also explorative. You know what I mean? I was with a group of guys, or out. My buddy's fucking awesome little cottage he has upstate New York. But I just want to explore my mind. I want to adventure, take that trip into my mind, and it helps me, these psychedelic experiences to kind of, just unwind from the day to day and get rid of the monotony, as well as just it just lights me up in a whole different way. And I also come back, just like we talked about any trip that I've taken, and I, like yourself, like new perspective, new opportunities, new way to examine and look at life, new way to love, new ways to love, new understanding what's getting in the way of love. So psychedelics are really, really profound.
Can be. Yeah,
They can be
for sure. Well, I think that's probably a pretty good way to wrap it up. I know we've got some benefits listed here, but I think we've covered everything in the conversation. There's just the thing that last thing I want to just cover is, diversifying your adventures, right? You've got the big adventures, going to Peru, Machu Picchu, Australia, Hawaii, whatever, Grand Canyon, Mount Everest. Those are great. More power to you. But there's also the little micro adventures, taking a different trail with your dog, maybe going on a different path on a walk with your wife, camping in the backyard with your kids. I'm trying to remember who I know that does that. Is it Teresa? It's somebody that does camping in their backyard. That kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be these grand adventures, although those are great. We can also do the micro adventures, and those are good for you in the same way, just in a smaller way. So,
if urban adventures, like fuck, I'm in New York City. Like there's museums, there's parks. Just the food adventure, just getting out, to go to new restaurant is super
I'm glad
exciting.
You said that. I was just about to say that. Like Will, like when David and I visited Will in New York last March,
not adventure,
or maybe it was last February, something like that, and that was an adventure. And then that in and of itself, it was an adventure. But every night we went out to a cool restaurant. There's a lot more culture, if you will, in New York City than there is out here in Monument, Colorado. Like I love Monument. Like the culture here is going hiking, right? And that's great. It's just different. But going out for the meals, those were adventures. Going to the bathhouse there in New York, that was an adventure. So there's adventures everywhere. Exactly. You've got to be intentional about making them happen, or you can find them. So.
Cool.
Well, awesome, brother.
I'm going to close this quote. We'll do a breathing practice. How's that? This is Eleanor Roosevelt. Check out this lady, what she's saying here. She might, you might have heard of her. Smart lady. She goes, the purpose of life, after all, is to live it, to taste experience to the utmost, and to reach out eagerly and without fear for newer and richer experiences. That's Eleanor Roosevelt. So my question to all of our audience, like, what is your next adventure? Actually, fucking drop it in a comment. Like, you can leave comments now, on Spotify. Tell us what your adventure is going to be, or hey, join us in Texas, outside of Dallas in October for the Spartan race. Like, we'd love to have you there. We'd love to connect with you because we know that when you show up, you're showing up with this sense of adventure, which is going to, with this sense of aliveness as well. You're in your masculinity because you're living the fucking adventure, right? Plus, we're going to bond. We're going to do some cool shit together. So, it's just going to be a lot of fun.
It is.
So thank you, John. This has been a lot of fun today.
Yeah. Well, yeah, indeed. Well, let's wrap it up with that adventurous closing practice.
Yes.
And then we'll say goodbye. But yeah, Will, you want to take it away?
Oh, yes. Let's do it. And this is maybe where your adventure starts, just discovering your breath, right? Could be very helpful to get you out of the monotony. So let's just do 5 breaths, nice and easy. Let's empty out. Just a great calming, very simple exercise to calm, right? Big breath in, bigger down into the belly and all the way up into the head, and let it go out. Again, in deep into the belly. All the way. Let it go out. And even on these exhales, maybe imagine yourself relaxing and just calming down into the moment again. 3 in. Out. Last 2 in. Smoothly out. Last 1 in, big. Let it go. So there it is. Get out there and have some
All
adventure,
right.
everybody that's listening. And thank you for this adventure today, John. Another podcast adventure with
There
Men
we go.
Talking Mindfulness and John McCuskell and Will Schneider. Right, always an adventure. So anyway.
All right, everyone. Will, great to see you, brother. Thank you,
too, my
everyone,
man.
for tuning in. Until next time, take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Peace. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.